Chapter 13, Industrial Organizational Psychology. Um, as always, once again, another very interesting topic in psychology. This is also a wonderful field to go into if you're thinking about um, being a part of the psychology world. So, what is industrial organizational psychology? It is a branch of psychology that studies how human behavior and psychology affect work and how they are affected by work. Industrial organizational psychologists work in academia, government, consulting firms, and businesses. So, areas of industrial organizational psychology include first, industrial psychology, which studies job characteristics, applicant characteristics, and how to match them. Also, this studies employee training and performance appraisal. This focuses on hiring and maintaining employees and considers issues of legality regarding discrimination in hiring. Organizational psychology studies interactions between people working in organizations and effects of those interactions on productivity. It is interested in worker satisfaction, motivation, commitment, management, and leadership styles, as well as social norms and role expectations. This also considers harassment and workplace violence. Human factors in psychology. These studies how workers interact with the tools of work and how to design those tools to optimize workers' productivity, safety, and health. Known as ergonomics in Europe, the tools of work can include interaction with a machine, workstation, information displays, and the local environment, such as lighting. All right, historical development. In the early 20th century, James Cattell, Hugo Monsterberg, and Walter Dill Scott were all students of Wilhelm Wundt. They conducted research focusing on what is now called industrial psychology. Cattell founded the Psychological Corporation, a psychological consulting company. Monsterberg published Psychology and Industrial Efficiency in 1913, which covered employee selection, employee training, and effective advertising. Scott was one of the first psychologists to apply psychology in advertising, management, and personal selection. Published the first books to describe the use of psychology in the business world. World War I. Robert Yerkes organized a group that developed methods for screening and selecting enlisted men. Developed the Army Alpha Test to measure mental abilities. Scott and Walter Bingham organized a group with the goal to develop selection methods for officers. All right, historical development. Elton Mayo conducted studies at Western Electric's Hawthorne Work, 1929 to 1932. Explored interpersonal relations, motivation, and organizational dynamics. Examined how human interaction factors enhanced or decreased productivity. The origin of organizational psychology. And researchers reported that any changes they made to variables resulted in increased productivity. The Hawthorne effect. Years after Mayo's study, researchers analyzed the results and noticed that employees performed better when researchers or supervisors observed and interacted with them. This suggested that productivity increased because people's performance changes when they are being observed. The Hawthorne effect. The increase in performance of individuals who are noticed, watched, and paid attention to by researchers or supervisors. Historical development. Kurt Lewin, 1930s, researched effects of leadership styles, team structure, and team dynamics. He studied group interactions between cooperation, competition, and communication. He coined the term group dynamics. Frederick Taylor, 1911, strived to engineer workplaces to increase productivity. The Principles of Scientific Management examines management styles, personnel selection, and training. Historical development. Lillian Gilbreth, the mother of modern management, strove to find ways to increase productivity, studied efficiency improvements that reduced the number of motions required to perform a task, and were applicable in the workplace, home, and other areas. She is credited with the idea of putting shelves on the inside of the refrigerator doors and foot pedal operated garbage cans. She investigated employee fatigue and time management stress and found many employees were motivated by money and job satisfaction. Selecting employees, job advertising. All right. Job analysis is accurately describing the task or the job. Task-oriented lists in detail the tasks that will be performed for the job. Worker-oriented describes characteristics required by the worker to successfully perform the job, such as knowledge, skills, and abilities. ONET is a database of previously compiled job analyses for different jobs and occupations. Candidate analysis and testing can improve testing, interviews, and workplace samples or exercises. Personality tests can be used to identify personality characteristics of the candidate and match those personality characteristics that would ensure good performance on the job. Other tests can include IQ tests, integrity tests, and physical tests, such as drug tests or physical fitness tests. Interviews. Interviews can be influenced by social factors and body language, such as the degree of similarity of the applicant to the interviewer and nonverbal behaviors, such as hand gestures, head nodding, and smiling. Research found that lack of eye contact and smiling led to lower applicant ratings. Unstructured interview, different questions for different candidates, and the questions are usually unspecified beforehand. A structured interview, same questions for every candidate. Questions are prepared in advance. Standardized rating system for each response, and more effective at predicting subsequent job performances of the job candidate. Training. Orientation. Training usually begins with an orientation period during which a new employee learns about company policies, practices, and culture. Educates the new employee about the organizational culture, the values, visions, hierarchies, norms, and ways the company's employees interact. Mentoring. Experienced employee guides the work of a new employee. Mentors may be formally assigned or develop informally. Research on mentoring has shown that mentoring positively affected proteges' compensation and the number of promotions compared with non-mentored employees. Proteges were more satisfied with their career and had greater job satisfaction. Evaluating employees. Industrial and organizational psychologists are often involved in designing performance appraisal systems for organizations. These aim to make evaluations as fair and positive as possible and decrease subjectivity. Performance appraisals. Evaluation of an employee's success or lack of success at performing the duties of the job. This is often used to motivate employees to improve performance and expand areas of competence. 360-degree feedback appraisal. Supervisors, customers, direct reports, peers, and the employee himself rate an employee's performance. This provides different perspectives of employees' job performance and often fail to accomplish their purpose because they are used incorrectly. Bias and protection in hiring. Selecting candidates based on group membership when it does not directly affect potential job performance is discriminatory. Many laws exist to prevent hiring based on various group membership criteria. Pregnancy, religion, and age are some of the criteria on which hiring decisions cannot legally be made. Did you know that it is illegal for a potential employer to ask your age in an interview? The U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity is responsible for enforcing federal laws that make it illegal to discriminate against a job applicant or an employee because of the person's race, color, religion, or sex, including pregnancy, national origin, age 40 or older, disability, or genetic information. Under the EEOC, the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity, you also have the Equal Pay Act, which requires equal pay for men and women in the same workplace who are performing equal work. Title VII of the Civil Rights Act in 1964 makes it illegal to treat individuals unfavorably because of their race or color of the skin. Pregnancy Discrimination Act in 1978 prohibits job discrimination of a woman because she is pregnant as long as she can perform the work required. American with Disabilities Act, employers cannot discriminate against any individual based on a disability. Disability is a physical or mental impairment that limits one or more major life activities such as hearing, walking, and breathing. It has been expanded to include individuals with alcoholism, former drug use, obesity, or psychiatric disabilities. Bona fide occupational qualification is the requirement of certain occupations for which denying an individual employment would otherwise violate the law, such as requirements concerning religion or sex. In some cases, religion, national origin, age, and sex are bona fide occupational qualifications. Job satisfaction results from how we think about our work, cognition, and how we feel about our work, affect. It is influenced by the work itself, our personality, and our culture. It is measured using questionnaires that employees complete. It can be measured at a global level, so general satisfaction with work, or at a level of specific factors. Which aspects of the job lead to satisfaction? We've all likely been in a job that we may or may not like, we may or may not feel appreciated at. So job satisfaction does play a role in industrial organizational psychology because you want to ensure that the people that you have working for you are happy with their job. Because if they are happy with their job and they have that overall satisfaction, they're going to perform better at their job. All right, so a few factors involved in job satisfaction: autonomy, individual responsibility, control over decisions, work content. They're offered a variety of challenges and role clarity, most strongly predictive of overall job satisfaction. Communication by being offered feedback and getting feedback, giving and receiving feedback. Financial rewards, salary and benefits. Growth and development, personal growth, training and education. Promotion, career advancement opportunity. Co-workers, professional relations or adequacy. Supervision and feedback, support, recognition, and fairness. The workload, the time pressure, work demands, extra work requirements, and security of the position. Okay, so Just as an example, we hear of a lot of burnout of public school teachers. So you can think about their jobs and what they encounter throughout a day. So for the course of the day, they're teaching, they're lesson planning, they're dealing with situations with students, with parents, with other faculty members. Um, they may take their work home with them, grading papers and those types of things. They may have additional requirements that are required of them for their profession. So, for example, chaperoning dances, attending different events, those types of things. So, those extra work requirements can make it feel as though they're in a bottomless pit. All right, job stress caused by specific stressors in an occupation. It leads to poor health, job performance, and family life. Stressors include having to fill multiple roles, workplace role ambiguity, lack of career progress, lack of job security, lack of control over work outcomes, isolation, work overload, discrimination, harassment, and bullying. Threats to job security. So downsizing, we've kind of talked a little bit in those classes that we have in class about AI and the integration of AI and how that could affect jobs now and in the future. This is one of those things that could be concerning leading into the future. So, downsizing, the process in which an organization tries to achieve greater overall efficacy by reducing the number of employees. Industrial organizational psychologists may be involved in how the news is delivered and how laid off and retained employees are supported. Corporate mergers, the joining of two organizations. Acquisition, one organization purchases another, so often leads to cuts due to duplication of core functions like sales and accounting at each company. And research focuses on understanding employee reactions and practical recommendations for managing organizational changes. Work-family balance occurs when people juggle the demands of work life with the demands of family life. We really saw this during the COVID pandemic and how people were having to work from home while they had their children at home and they had all the school responsibilities. So it became quite overwhelming for many. Greenhouse and Battelle, 1985, three sources of work-family conflicts. Time devoted to work makes it difficult to fulfill requirements of family or vice versa. Strain from participation in work, difficult to fulfill requirements of family or vice versa. Specific behaviors required by work, difficult to fulfill requirements of family or vice versa. Ways to decrease work-family conflict, support in the home, emotional and practical. Practical support found to be the most effective. Workplace support, understanding supervisors, flex time, leave with pay, and telecommuting. Telecommuting, employees' ability to set their own hours, allowing them to work from home at different parts of the day. Telecommuting was found to make the conflict worse. Management and organizational structure was established by Douglas McGregor in the 1960s. It combined scientific management and human relations into the notion of leadership behavior. Scientific management is the theory of management that analyzes and synthesizes workflows with the main objective of improving economic efficiency, especially labor productivity, identified by two different styles of managers. You have Theory X. The manager assumes workers are inherently lazy and unproductive. Managers must have control and use punishments. Theory Y. Manager assumes workers are people who seek to work hard and productively. Managers and workers can find creative solutions to problems. Workers do not need to be controlled and punished. So, Theory X and Theory Y management styles. The Theory X, people dislike work and avoid it. People avoid responsibility, and people want to be told what to do. Goals are achieved through rules and punishments. Theory Y, people enjoy work and find it natural. People are more satisfied when given responsibility. People want to take part in setting their own goals, and goals are achieved through enticements and rewards. All right, so Donald Clifton researched how an organization can be best used to help an individual's strengths. He argued that our strengths provide the greatest opportunity for growth. Strength-based management is an approach that focuses on the employee's strengths. Bass, 1985, transactional leadership. Characteristic of leaders who focus on supervision and organizational goals, achieved through a system of rewards and punishments. Maintenance of the organizational status quo. Transformational leadership, charismatic role models, inspirational, optimistic about goal attainment, intellectually stimulating, encourage critical thinking and problem solving, and individual considerate, and who seek to change the organization. All right, goals, teamwork, and work teams. You hear a lot about this, just the same way that you might get to get along with teammates on a team, a basketball team, softball team, football team. Work teams follow the same kind of guidelines. So team-based approach, many companies structure their organization so that work can be delegated to work teams. A work team is a group of people within an organization or company given a specific task to achieve together. It brings together diverse skills, experience, and expertise, do not always deliver greater productivity. Why do some teams work well while others do not? These would fall within a couple of different definitions. So we have social loafing, poor communication, poor decision-making skills due to conformity effects, and conflict within the group. Team halo effect. Teams are given credit for their success, but individuals within a team are blamed for team failures. Teams and gender diversity. Cons. Diversity can introduce communication and interpersonal problems. Pros. Diversity can increase the team's skill set. Hugendum, Osterbeck, and von Praag, 2013, found that gender-balanced teams performed better than predominantly male teams. They did not identify which mechanism accounted for performance improvement. Types of teams. Problem resolution teams are created for the purpose of solving a particular problem. Creative teams are used to develop innovative possibilities or solutions. And tactical teams are used to execute a well-defined plan or objective. Organizational culture is the values, visions, hierarchies, norms, and interactions among its employees. This is how an organization is run, how it operates, and how it makes decisions. Ostroff, Kanicki, and Timkins, 2003, the 3 layers in organizational culture were developed. So you have observational artifacts, symbols of language such as jargon, slang, and humor, narratives, which are stories and legends, and practices, rituals that represent the underlying cultural assumptions. Espoused values, the concept belief that management or entire organization endorses. The basic assumptions are usually observable and unquestioned. Diversity training educates participants about cultural differences, with the goal of improving teamwork. It aims to reduce prejudice. Sexual harassment. Most organizations have developed sexual harassment policies that define harassment and procedures to prevent and address it when it occurs. Sexual harassment is sexually based behavior that is knowingly unwanted and has an adverse effect on a person's employment status. It interferes with a person's job performance or creates a hostile or intimidating work environment. Types of sexual harassment. You have quid pro quo. You give something to get something. Organizational rewards are offered in exchange for sexual favors. The threat of withholding a reward if a sexual request is refused. And a hostile environment, sexual harassment. The employee experiences conditions in which the workplace considers hostile or intimidating. So environment allowing offensive language or sexually explicit images. Violence in the workplace. Workplace violence is quite common. Violence or the threat of violence against workers can occur inside or outside the workplace. This includes physical violence, harassment, intimidation, or other disruptive behavior. It ranges from threats and verbal abuse to physical assaults and homicide. The warning signs: intimidating behavior, threats, sabotaging equipment, or radical changes in the co-worker's behavior. Feelings of being treated unfairly, unjustly, or disrespectfully are significant triggers. There is procedural justice, fairness of the processes by which outcomes are determined in conflicts with or among employees. Greenberg and Barling in 1999, the history of aggression and the amount of alcohol consumed equals an accurate predictor of violence against a coworker. Feelings of being unfairly treated or entrusted are predictors of aggression against a supervisor. And job security and alcohol consumption are predictors of aggression against a subordinate. Human factors in psychology studies the integration, physical, cognitive, or both, of the human-machine interface in the workplace. Concerned with researching and designing machines that fit human requirements. Involved in the development of regulations and principles of test design, often related to safety. The areas of study: attention includes vigilance and monitoring, recognizing signals and noise, mental resources, and divided attention. How is attention maintained? What about tasks maintains attention? And how to design systems to support attention. Cognitive engineering includes human software interactions and complex automated systems, especially decision-making processes of workers as they are supported by the software system. How do workers use and obtain information provided by software? Task analysis is the breaking down the elements of a task. How can a task be performed more efficiently? And how can a task be performed more safely? Cognitive task analysis, breaking down the elements of a cognitive task, and how are these decisions made. Workplace safety, usually there's a checklist used to reduce accidents in the workplace. For example, pilots are required to go through a detailed checklist of the different parts of the aircraft before takeoff to ensure that all essential equipment is working correctly. Time limits on operating equipment limits how long an operator, such as a pilot or truck driver, is allowed to operate the equipment.